start with quick overview of where we're heading. Firstly, this is a new Bible topic, so the first thing I asked our youth group was, okay, you're approaching a new Bible study, how do you do it? What are you going to do? How are you going to start? Then a real brief background of, we went into the story of Noah, real brief background of just Genesis 1 to 5, etc. Then we went into doing a chapter breakdown, which is the main thrust of this study group. This was the first handout. I've got two handouts. This is so lame, but it was the first handout I gave everyone because this is how you start a new Bible study. Let's start with how to do Bible study. So this is essentially right from the word go, how to commence a new study. All right, so what's the first thing we'll do when we...
Read the section.
Yes. Oops. Can't spell. P-R-A-Y. Pray, read the section. Yep, fire them up.
Maybe read the section in a few versions.
Okay. Versions. Let's say at the same while you're doing all of this.
Oh, we get fancy.
No phone.
Yeah, no distractions. Cool. All right, what else are we going to do? So we've read the section.
Are we doing a chapter?
So we're studying Noah.
Oh.
So how are we going to get into the study of Noah? Chapter breakdown, you said? Chapter breakdown.
Any themes that you see, maybe highlight, cover in?
Questions. So a list of questions as you go. For themes, yep. Next. Anything else?
Elsewhere in Scripture.
Other Old Testament / New Testament references. Yep, anything else?
It can also be used to apply to the themes and not just the characters, which can often be interesting.
Sorry, this can.
Yeah, it's often interesting to
So,
go back to the
characters. New Testament references both the characters or whatever and the themes. Yep. Good. Yeah, characters / story, yeah.
Animals.
Or animal. Yep. All right, what else?
Genesis 1 to 5.
So, background.
That's important. I can't believe we got that.
Someone did say that, sorry. You did.
Completely forgetting it.
Background / context. So in this case, it's Genesis 1 to 5. All right, anything else?
Imagine the scene if you're on a boat or you multiply loads of people and then you're on a boat for however long once a year with 17 days.
So build a mental picture of.
Smelly animals
or draw a picture. If you want.
Yeah.
If it helps.
Draw could help. Meditate, dream, whatever. Yep, good. What else?
Do you have more stuff?
Well, at this point,
I'm totally.
at this point, we haven't looked at the.
Oh, we haven't got it.
Yeah. So is there any so we've asked questions. How are we going to answer them? So a lot of the answers. Yeah. So it's basically study each group of verses in detail.
Yeah.
So study. I'll just say.
So study the broken.
I'll say section by section. The reason I'm saying that as opposed to verse by verse is it's not like you need to go oh, what's in verse 7? I'm sure there's something. Sometimes you just need to go, okay, what's the point here? If there's no, if it's real self-obvious, move on. There's going to be something you can spend your time on. If something jumps out, then, or if you've got a question about it, then, search out that. So study section by section. This is where you find a lot of the answers to your questions, or some of them. And in this, you might look at other resources. Although you probably, you might be, when you're looking at the background, you're probably reading a book on Noah or listening to a series of talks. All right, anyway, there's a real brief overview. And it was really good coming from them and for them to think, okay, how am I going to approach this? Like, that worked quite well. So that is on the first page. All right, we missed a couple of really important ones. What were they, Josh? 10. Mark in Bible. 11. Apply it. So that's real good. That's, not a bad little summary of how to approach Bible study, and then obviously people can go back and read in their notes. But having done that, we then, having commenced with prayer, the first thing we said we would do was read the section. Sometimes we can use other versions and do a chapter breakdown. So, overview of the background. So Genesis 1 is about, and this is exactly how I did it, right? So I've got Genesis 1 to 2 was creation. Genesis 3. Sorry, I'm just rushing with my handwriting because time's kind of the essence, but you might do it a bit neater when. All right, the fall. Genesis 4. What's the first half of Genesis 4 about? This is important to get this part right. Yep. Genesis, let's say 4a. Cain and Abel. Then what's the second half of Genesis 4 about? Seed of Cain.
I read the Bible. Reading the Bible is not cheating.
So Genesis 4b is seed of Cain. Yep. What's Genesis 5 about?
Seed of Adam. What's the
Seed of Adam through who? Yeah. Genesis 5. Seed of Seth. All right. What two groups have we got here? What happened in Genesis 3, verse 15?
Seed of the woman.
Right, exactly. So the enmity which is put between the two seeds, the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, in Genesis 3:15, now divides two groups of people in Genesis 4 and 5. Right? What happens in Genesis 6, verses 1 and 2?
They come back.
Right.
I don't think joining the middle is quite right. You should join the far left.
It'll do. All right. So the big problem of Genesis 6 verses 1 to 2 is that the two seeds have intermingled. And in Matt's diagram, it's going to go to here, but, whatever. So that is essentially, in 2 minutes, the background to the flood. That is the background. Like, obviously, just get them then to go and read their notes when they get home and, have a more thorough look at the background. Hopefully they will have already started doing that. But there's kind of a real brief overview of the problem which leads to the flood. See what God did here. He put hatred between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. The sons of God the sons of God should have known that there was this enmity between their way of life. When they then went and compromised that and they married people of the world, flesh it out. It'll take you 5 minutes. It's a really powerful lesson. That led to the destruction of the whole, of all mankind. And if we think that we can go and mix with the world, this is where we're going to end up. We're going to end up under the flood, not in the ark. All right, this is where the next handout comes in. Okay, so what I've got here is a printout of Genesis 5 to 9. So when we did this, right, so we've kind of done a quick thing of background, which, belongs there. So we're focusing on this, but my group, they thought of some really interesting questions and asked them. So I just said, right, good one, ask the question. Hey, what does it mean when it says, why is there this repetitive language? I was like, right, good question, write it down. as we went through, started, like someone said, oh, the word earth keeps coming up. Right, circle it. Don't have to get all of them. Note it down on your list of themes. For chapter breakdowns, it was literally like, okay, 7 verses 1 to, all right, and then we'd read, okay, I think this section ends there. No rulers, no nothing, just scribble it on, circle things, underline, draw, whatever. And that worked really well. So we came out with questions. We came out with themes wherever they are. Oh, yeah, that would help. A few Old and New Testament references. Actually, this worked well. When we were doing them, I said, okay, does anyone have any ideas of any Old or New Testament references off the top of your heads? Ezekiel 14, yeah. Isaiah 54. Luke's been there. Luke 17. Matthew 24. What else?
I said Hebrews because there's half.
Hebrews. What chapter? 11. All right. So yeah, we had some of references come out. Yep, Peter. 1 Peter 3 and... not allowed to say that, am I?
Was it, that's the 2 Peter 3?
Yeah, that's right. A good question, a good trick question is always. So let's do this in, like, it probably won't take us very long. See if we can do it in half an hour. I gave my group an hour. The point of this is that everyone's going to discover it themselves, and then hopefully the rest that follows will make sense.
And the amount of time you come to talks, and you've got your own chapter break when you margin, and the speaker gives you a completely different one, and then you put both of them in, or you write one at the bottom and one on the side. Yeah. It
is important that people don't think there is one right chapter breakup, because, for example, I can go really in depth and have lots of little things, or I can have a big overview. And so sometimes we had that. We'd do in capitals, big overview for the chapter, little things, you know. All right, cool. Let's get into it. 2 tables. The purpose now is to do chapter breakups. When we got to background, the immediate background is chapter 5. I used this when I was drawing the background thing, and there was the 2 seeds. When we got to Genesis 5, I said, okay, let's look at Genesis 5, which is the immediate context. What do you notice? What themes do you notice? And someone said there's a lot of different, like a couple of different things which were mentioned, begat, this, whatever. One of them was and he died. So I said, all right, red pen, red pencil, whatever, and he died, and he died. And we went through, and I got someone else who had it coloured. I said, yep, James, can you read it out? He read out all of the references. I just jotted them down on the whiteboard as the start of our themes list, and then said, okay, so what's happened? The seed, like the descendants of the woman, whatever, the faithful descendants have ended in this terrible cycle of vanity, you know, and he died, and he died, and he died, and he died, and he died. And then everything comes to the flood. So it's just showing that God's good creation has now ended in a cycle of total death and devastation. All right, when you just show how everything was made really good, and then this is where it's got to, everyone's like, oh yeah, okay. They can see kind of what the setting on which the flood occurs. Cool, let's go. I just then wrote out the whole chapter breakdown and did it table by table to do each chapter, and then we'll work from there. So, chapter 5. What was chapter 5 about?
Seed of the woman.
Chapter 5. Seed of the woman. Yep. Any other descriptions?
And he died.
Like what is it? What is it?
Genealogy.
Genealogy of who?
The seed of the woman.
Genealogy, is it the genealogy of Seth? I found it really helpful to encourage people to say what it actually is. Yeah, it represents the seed of the woman, da 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 da. It is actually the genealogy of Seth, right? Chapter 6. Did anyone have Well, let's go chapter 6.
Yeah, we did before the flood.
Okay, so you've done. So we've got chapter summaries. Good. Chapter 6, chapter 7.
There was some debate on whether or not it was.
All right. So chapter 6 is.
Before the flood.
All right. Chapter 7. What's that about? The flood comes. Chapter 8
Events subsequent.
You better put the
is chapter 8 after the flood.
the abatement of.
Just set.
Right. The flood decreases or recedes, and after the flood or events subsequent. After.
Leave the ark.
All right. Some people may find that helpful. Chapter 6. This table. What have you got? Verse 1 to 1 to 4. The
I don't like those words. You can't spell.
intermingling of the seeds. Yeah. Then someone else, verse 5 to what?
8.
All right, 5 to 8. Some sort of consensus.
Perspective.
Sorry, God's perspective. God repents of creating man. Anything else?
Yeah, God response. Destruction.
Okay. Intermingling of the seeds. I reckon that the intermingling of the seeds, God's response destroys man. Or going to destroy man. That's pretty makes sense as to what's happening.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You can choose something different, but let's go with that. God's response. Right, verse 9 to 13. What have we got?
Salvation now. So the contrast of the destruction versus salvation.
Salvation of Noah.
Right, which is why you could tap on verse 8 to this section.
Yep. And then verse 14.
It could just be the end of the last section, which is leaving.
Thanks, verse 14 to 14 to 16. Yep. What have you got, Luke?
We got it to 8 to 10.
God instructed
Destruction of flesh.
Noah on building an ark. Building an ark.
What God says he will do.
Or what do you say? Make an ark?
Yeah.
Yep. Whatever.
We had 17 to 22.
17 to 22.
More specific, and we got room to go with that.
Yeah, I'm going to 7 and 18 being what God says he will do.
Yep. And then?
19 to 20 something, 22.
Animals.
Okay.
Good start.
So what God says he will do and animals. What else have we got?
We've got reason for the ark to save.
Purpose of the ark to save. Yeah, okay. That's pretty... I like that because
Are you saving the animals?
this is make an ark. This is what to do and this is why, right? And sometimes it takes just a moment's explanation. This is what to do. This is why we're doing it, right? So therefore something like purpose of the ark is probably quite good and you can keep your animals in there. Oh, there you go. Why who? Nice. All right, so this is the purpose of the ark. Cool. All right, chapter 7, this table. Let's start.
Verse 1 to 10 into the ark.
Verses 1 to 10
1 to 4.
into the ark.
Keeping it.
Matt, you've got it subdivided. Yep, what do you got? Verse 1 to 4.
1 to 4, God's call, verses 5 to 10, the response.
Call. Verse 5 to 10, the response. Yep. Verse 11 to 12. Got wet with rain. Let's combine them.
Make it sound
With-
someone put some thought into this.
All right.
Verse 13 to 16 into the ark again.
13 to 16.
If you want to.
I'm going to put into the ark instead of into the ark again. Sorry? Oh, was that? What did you do? What was that?
I just went straight 11 to 20 and rain and flood commences and no animals safe enough.
Yep, could do. I found when you end up with people saying it's this, no, it's this, I found it easier to put the big one and then the sub.
17 to 20.
All right, so into the ark. What was it? Got real wet.
I said water's increased if you want that, but
Got
Rain with the flood.
got real wet. I like it.
real wet.
With rain. With more rain.
Verse 21 to 24.
Yeah, well destroyed by flesh dies.
Noah only saved.
All flesh dies. Good. Right, chapter 8. Verse 1 to... 1 to what? 1 to 5?
Water goes down.
Yep. And I think that sort of thing's a good one. Water goes down because it's real simple and they get it. If that's what someone gives you, just say, yep, great. Because just keep it simple.
6 to 12, Dove and Raven.
All right, verse what? 15 to...
19.
Leaving ark.
Leaving the ark.
Go forth.
15 to 19. What have you got? Go forth of the ark.
19. No, I got 15 to 22. Go forth. No,
All right.
I got 15 to 19 because verse 20 to 22 is God's promise.
Let's say go forth of the ark. All right, and then verse 20 to 22 was what? $20 to 22?
Promise.
God's promise.
God's
offering and acceptance. Yeah, I like that.
That's good. Yep, okay, chapter 9.
7. And the reason 1 to 7 is because in verse 1 it says be fruitful and multiply, and then in verse 7 it says be fruitful.
Yeah, you better say.
All right, so good. We've established that verses 1 to 7 is a section. And what are we going to summarise it as?
New order. Oh, lovely.
What?
The new order. You
The-
said that.
Yeah, no, I did.
I said a new commandment.
A new commandment. All right, Matt's going to sing it for us. Any other ideas? So the new order, a new commandment,
No, it's good. New
a
order.
new commandment.
New order.
All right, verse 8.
The seventh-day covenant of the rainbow.
So verse 8 to 17, the covenant of
It happens later.
the rainbow. And then this is a classic one where it's good to have subdivisions. Verses 8 to 11, the covenant. Verses 12 to 17, the token.
Actually, you'll get the themes coming in nicely.
Verse 18, yep, exactly. Verse 18 to, so yeah, try and hopefully someone will bring out covenant. Hopefully you'll notice that it occurs 7 times. So that's the number of the covenant. Hopefully then someone else will point out that in chapter 6 it's also mentioned once. So therefore in the story of Noah it occurs 8 times. Why? Because the covenant's all about what?
I don't know. There's a few different things.
What's the whole story of the flood about?
A new creation.
What happens in the
I
flood?
think that one's
A
right.
new beginning. Or
New beginning. Yeah, destruction of flesh, right? Like maybe cutting off the flesh, right? Which is exactly what happened in circumcision, which happened on the what day? Right. Okay. So you've got a covenant in chapter 9. So God's speech includes the word covenant 7 times, but when you're taking the whole story of Noah, the covenant is about the number 8, the cutting off of all flesh, and that's you can trace that through. Why does it say in Peter, Noah the 8th person? Like, do we really need to know that? Maybe he's making a point about him being the 8th person. So, you won't have time to flesh it all out, but you can throw some ideas out there about the significance of the themes and that sort of thing. All right, 18 to what?
18 to 19.
Descendants, what?
Spread.
Noah's prosperity?
His prosperity, and then verse 20 to 24 is his prosperity.
Verse 20 to 24, what are we going to say? Noah drunk and Ham sin, let's say.
28 to 29 guys.
25 to 27, verse 28 to 29,
Yeah, that's even shorter, isn't it?
Noah dies.
talking about we have to.
What was 25 to 27? So there we have. Now, it's really hard to read because the whiteboard's small. There we have an overview of the story of Noah. Here's a chapter breakup which we've just put together on the story of Noah. What do we notice about someone pointed out that they had recognised the language of verses 28 to 29 before. What was it about that? What did it link to?
It links to chapter 5, the end of chapter 5.
Right.
Goes on directly onto the end.
Okay, so we could say that is linked to that, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we've noticed that this and this are linked. All right, what was the problem before the flood? What was the problem in here? The sons of God saw. Right. Problems?
To the eyes.
Saw. What was the problem with Ham?
He saw something.
Ham saw. So the problem with in both of these situations is the lust of the flesh, is the lust of the eyes, right? So let's link them. All right, so God says, all right, I'm going to destroy man. That's his response, okay? Here, what's the rainbow all about?
I'm never going to do that again.
Exactly. So, where is it? The covenant of the rainbow. God instructs Noah to build an ark. Parallel. So here, Noah's building. All right. What does he do here?
Builds the altar.
Built an altar. So built ark, built altar. Right. Let's link that. And then, yep. So that's the next one. So enter the ark. All right. God's call. And then here, go forth of the ark.
Oh, he's not leaving.
Oh, he's risky.
Then we've got.
Drying and getting.
Oh, help. You're rotten things here, don't you? So got wet with rain, drying of the ground. Yep, that works.
Oh no, that no.
Got real wet. You probably want to include it there as well. Water goes down.
Oh, that's right. I just said, I think, I just linked all of this.
Yeah, it does.
That's all about the rain coming, going into the ark, getting wet. This is all about
Getting dry.
the flood going, the dove and raven, and the water drying. Okay? So, what is then the centre point of this parallel?
Start of verse 8, chapter 8.
8 verse 1. Right. Someone read 8 verse 1.
God remember Noah.
Excellent. So that's
That's going to come up at Hebron about 10 times minimum.
totally. It will be all across Hebron. It's then really worthwhile getting everyone
It's actually in your notes.
to open the notes and go to page.
In your notes, Luke, even though you're missing the
I
point.
saw it earlier, man.
Yeah, because you started.
What page is it? So take them to page 13 and show them just how detailed the parallel is. Just bear in mind that this chiasm starts at 6 verse 9 and finishes at the same spot, right? So it finishes here and it starts like here. So that's a bit tricky. Yeah, because all we've done here really is link some big sections together. But then show this goes right down to the details. 7 days of waiting, 7 days. 7 days, 7 days.
Which might
40 days, 40 days, 150.
Some of the questions about why there was repetition.
It may. So there's a lot which might be answered in that structure, right? But the point we want to recognise is that God remembered Noah. What does it mean when God remembered someone? Then you want to give like 2 examples. They're in the notes. So I would suggest definitely read this section on the focal point. So make a few points like about God remembered Abraham and he sent out Lot. God remembered Rachel and he opened his womb. So when God remembers someone,
Samson asks
It's
to remember him as his
associated with
final
him
act in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's picked up in Hebrews 11, which is pretty interesting.
okay, so maybe look up some more examples of God remembering
Just
people.
Hebrews 11 in general as God remembering people.
Yeah, if you can use the word, because often, like, it's a classic theme of Scripture. God remembered his people and he sent Moses. So whenever God remembers someone, it means that like it's not like he's forgotten them. It's just like he's like, okay, right, know what, time to act. So Book of Remembrance was written for them that feared Yahweh. No, sorry, that's Malachi 3.
End of Daniel 12, I'm pretty sure the last verse might mention it.
At this stage, I would get everyone to be at Genesis 8, verse 1. So we've established that when God remembers someone, he acts. What does he do here? God remembered Noah, and what does he do?
Yeah, he makes a wind.
He made a wind to pass over the ark. Does anyone know what that word wind is? If no one does anyone have a phone which has Strong's
I don't
number on
know
it?
what the word wind or spirit in Scripture is in Hebrew.
Exactly. So get them to look at it. Get someone to find out that it's ruach. Once they've found out that it's ruach, then link that to Genesis 1 verse 2. The Spirit of God moved on the face of the water. This is an exact repeat. What happens after this is that we are back at Genesis 1 verse 2. So what will we expect to happen? Sorry, but not quite. Exactly. We've got a remnant in the ark. But as far as the world at large goes, it's essentially back at Genesis 1 verse 2. What happens from this point? We would expect a new creation to develop. Like once you've got to establish that this is the turning point of the story and that from here, the Spirit of God moving on the face of the waters, we've got the new creation. Maybe develop the picture a bit. What does the earth look like? It's dark, storm clouds. All right, I know this isn't technically true at that point, but what has it look like? Dark, darkness covered the water. It's covered in water. And just show all these little parallels between Genesis 1, those first two verses, and here. And then it says, and God said. So verse 15, and God spake. And then hopefully one of your groups will have pulled out the parallel between Genesis 9 verse 1, be fruitful, multiply and replenish the earth, to chapter 1. So like a list of dot points, like 4 or 5 dot points, and said, clearly we can see this is the start of a new creation. So what's the story of Noah all about? It's all about, in parable, the story of the new creation. And then that, of course, is therefore the story of our lives. Jot down 1 Peter 3:20. The like figure we're unto baptism doth also save us. So as well as this being the story of the whole of the new creation, it's the story of our individual renewal by baptism. So therefore, this Sunday school story has a direct impact on every one of our lives. And that's a really good take-home point for the youth group that, oh, okay, this is worth me spending time understanding and so forth because it directly relates to me.
Someone showed me recently the parable of creation itself, and, well, I don't know, a while ago, but you can see how that's representing a parable of God's plan with the earth in general, mankind in general. And then you can say, and then it's on the 6th day is mankind coming and showing the image of God. And you've got the parable of Noah, which is almost like a detailed parable on how that happens. And it mirrors exactly what happens with Genesis 1, where you've got the creation, and then chapter 2 is the detail about the man. So the same way you've got purpose with the whole earth, and then the detail about the new creation of man. So I think there's a nice parallel again there as well.
Mm-hmm. Good. That's all I had. So there's the idea. Take it away, make it whatever you think will work for your youth group. I did find chapter breakup was really good at getting everyone to be like, yep, I now get we're in this section where the flood's coming. We're in the section where the flood's like after the flood, whatever you use. They did go away with quite a, oh yeah, I get it sort of thing, which was quite good. And then getting this was quite key. All right, thank you. I'm just going to turn off the recording and we'll close in prayer.